So, for everybody watching, y'all know we've been talking about the Jack Smith situation, and part of the reason we've been talking about it is because I was actually on a panel where a young lady was trying to convince me that Trump was a criminal. Now, how she was trying to convince me of this is she kept saying something about Trump sent fake electors or something like that, and I'm like, yo, I don't think I've ever heard that. I don't think I've ever heard that. Something is fishy about that, because if there would have been an accusation about him sending fake electors, I think I would have heard about that. So during the discussion, she was like, well, what do you think about that? I said, I don't think anything about it. I can't really speak on it because I haven't heard that before, which means I haven't done any research into it. And unlike the rest of you Negroes, I don't speak on things I haven't researched or I don't know anything about, right? So I can't say it happened or didn't happen. Now, if I had to guess, I would say it was BS. And now I know it's BS, because once she said that, I said, you know what? I'm going to go do my research on it, and then I'm going to come back and have the discussion with you. Now, things have changed since then. I don't have any desire to have that discussion, because now I know it's BS. Because Jack Smith, one of his cases, he had two cases against Trump. One case was the documents case, right, which makes absolutely no sense, because they've already ruled and determined that a president can declassify any classified documents, and he can declassify it any way he deems acceptable. Like, so he pretty much has carte blanche to declassify it however he wants to declassify it. In other words, a sitting president could walk out of the White House with classified papers, and if they say, hey, Mr. President, those papers are classified, well, no, they're not, because I just decided they're not. That's how much power the president has to declassify classified documents. And if you think I'm joking, go look it up. There's a landmark case that determined this, right? I may be wrong, but I think that might be the Bill Clinton. Might have something to do with Bill Clinton, because I heard that Bill Clinton actually had the same issue, and they determined that a president can declassify whatever classified documents that he wants, right? So that case is bunk, right? So then you have the other case, which is the supposed fake electors. Now, the argument that I've been raising is that if Jack Smith, special counsel Jack Smith, is accusing Donald Trump of sending fake electors, which would classify as election interference, why would he drop his case right after Trump gets elected? That, to me, that would be like if law enforcement had proof that you were a hustler and that you sold drugs, and then you're going to drop the case because the dealer is about to do the biggest deal of his life. That doesn't make sense. Well, that's probably not a good analogy, but you get what I'm saying. If you have proof that he allegedly interfered with the election, why would you put the stops on it right before he gets inaugurated in the next election? It would seem to me, if your mandate is justice, if your idea is to make sure that the law is followed, you would continue to pursue this case so that he can't be inaugurated. But we all know, those of us that pay attention in civics class, we all know that he can't pursue the case because he's about to be elected. He never was supposed to bring the case in the first place. And I would argue that there were never any fake electors, right? But it is what it is. But I'm going to click this video real quick to see what they have to say, because not only is this case being dropped, but Jack Smith is resigning. And we know why he's resigning, because he knows if he stays in there past the inauguration date, Trump is going to fire his ass. So this is literally like, well, I'm going to quit before you have the opportunity to fire me, right? because he thinks that's how it's going to end. No, sir. It's not going to end with you quitting. I can guarantee you that.
Things are moving very fast this morning for the incoming president.
Indeed, we've got cabinet picks, big move in the government's case against Donald Trump for election interference, and a big White House meeting that's happening today. Let's check in with Doug Luzader, who joins us live from Washington. Doug, good morning. Let's start with President Biden and President-elect Trump's meeting today. How do we expect this to go, and do we expect this to be a cordial meeting?
Yeah, I think cordial is probably the word for it. And I would imagine that both of them will put out a statement afterwards saying that it was a good meeting and so on. We will see a little bit of this in that it sounds like they're going to let cameras in the Oval Office just briefly to snap some pictures of the two of them meeting, and then that's it. So what happens behind closed doors? Who knows? But this is a tradition. It didn't happen 4 years ago, but Biden is hosting Trump at the White House. And in fact, Trump is just about to take off from Florida to head here to Washington.
Okay, let's talk about Special Counsel Jack Smith. Trump promised to fire him, but it looks like maybe he won't get the chance. And do you think that there could be a report before Trump actually takes office from Jack Smith?
Yeah, it's certainly possible. I mean, they're certainly going to wind down those prosecutions, it sounds like, because of Department of Justice protocol, which is that you don't charge a sitting president. You know, that's one aspect to all of this. And, of course, all of the cases against Trump were not just tied to Jack Smith. I mean, there were some other there's this state case in Georgia, for instance, and the one in New York, where Judge Juan Marchand decided to kind of kick the can down the road a little bit. So these things are not over yet, but at least at the federal level, it looks like they're going to wind down.
All right. So we've also been following this series of cabinet picks by the president-elect, including, we're told, a Fox anchor now taking on a major role.
Yeah, I mean, I think this one was something of a surprise. Pete Hegseth, who is a weekend Fox News host, is the pick for Secretary of Defense. It's a big job. I think that this surprised a lot of folks around here. Hegseth certainly has a strong connection with veterans groups. He's worked on veterans issues for a long time. He is a decorated veteran himself, but he's not really among the circle of folks that you would traditionally think of being considered for this job. And you know, that can be an asset. It can also be a liability as far as confirmation hearings are concerned.
All right, we'll see which one it proves to be. Thank you so much, Doug Luzader. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
So, and by the way, we're going to look at the video of Trump and Biden meeting. So here we go with they said, oh, is it going to be cordial? Because I guess they thought that they were going to be arguing with each other, right? Funny. What the hell? I'm going to need y'all to get it together.
Well, Mr. President-elect and the former president, thank you. Donald, congratulations. Thank you. And looking forward to having like we said, a smooth transition. Do everything we can to make sure you're accommodated, what you need. And we're going to get a chance to talk about some of that today. So
good.
Welcome
Thank you
back.
very much. And thank you very much. And politics is tough, and it's in many cases not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate it very much. And a transition that's so smooth, it'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Jim.
You're welcome. Thank you all.
So there are a lot of things to gather in those few moments, which is why it's important to see all of them. We hadn't heard from Biden. We took it so quickly. So you've got to see that exchange between two people who really were in quite the epic political battle. Not just 4 years ago in 2020, but fast forward up until June 27th and that debate that basically destroyed Joe Biden's opportunity to stay atop the ticket for the Democratic Party. And when you hear the president-elect say politics is tough, And after that's over, it can be a nice world. We're in a nice world today. Martha, what goes through your mind when you hear that?
Well, first of all, that this is very short.
Right.
They brought in former President Trump. It appears to me that the White House wanted this to be as tight a moment as humanly possible.
Why do you think that is?
Well, gracious invitation, obviously, from Joe Biden. Joe Biden is a career, lifelong politician. These two men could not be more different. Donald Trump has spent his entire life in business, and then he became president and learned the ropes. Joe Biden has been in Washington since he was 28 years old. So these two men, while they are in the same ballpark of age, they are light years apart in so many ways. But I think they wanted this to be tight, Harris. I don't think they wanted to give the incoming president the opportunity to sort of take this moment over. But it was a cordial moment between these two men, and this is what I think America wants to see. I thought, for me, the most sort of poignant moment was when Biden looked at Trump and said, "Welcome back."
Yeah.
Yep.
Bill.
It's quite a moment. I agree with you, Martha. I wrote that down as well. By the way, that fire behind them is ripping. And I don't know. I don't know if the meeting they're about to have will be as warm as that fire between the two men, but we'll find out momentarily. When he met with Barack Obama, the meeting went 90 minutes. Who's to say how long this goes? I thought what Jake Sullivan said on CBS on Sunday was kind of interesting. He said, we want to know what his ideas are. I don't think Donald Trump is the kind of guy who wants to show his hand. He's got fires that he wants to put out all over the world.
Literal ones.
Yeah, and some of these cabinet positions, not necessarily cabinet, but the people on his team, I think are very interesting. You know, Fox Digital reported 2 hours ago, they broke the news that there will be a Ukraine envoy to try and settle that matter. And that's going to be massively complicated, by the way.
Do you think that came up or will come up as these two men talk?
I imagine it will. I mean, that would be my guess. But again, I don't think Trump's the kind of guy that wants to show his hand on this. Now, I think with regard to President Biden, he wants Trump to know what they're doing now. And there's a great piece in the Wall Street Journal this morning. It lays out how complicated this is to peel away the different factions, whether it's Putin, whether it's Iran, whether it's the North Koreans with upwards of 10 to 15,000 troops ready to join that battle. And then you've got Zelensky and whether or not he would take a deal. So that's massively complicated. I think the other thing, Stephen Witkoff is a man that most Americans don't know. He's a highly successful and very accomplished individual. He's been really good friends with Donald Trump going back 30 years. He's going to be the Middle East envoy. There is a possibility, you know, as you know, this peace deal that was moving forward between the Saudis and the Israelis that was blown up on October 7th after Hamas, you know, broke through the fence and went into Israel. That has a chance of coming back. And that has a chance of coming back on track. And if it does, that entire region has the potential to change.
So that's so interesting because we have seen reports recently of Jared Kushner coming back into the picture a little bit. And of course, the Abraham Accords were so monumental. It's one of the few areas that Biden didn't touch, actually, in terms of Trump policy. I think he gets where we are in the world. You notice that he's not going to expire, as lack of a better term, the weapons money that we're giving them and the accoutrement that goes with that, actual weapons to Israel. I mean, that calendar has slowed down now under Biden's watch. Martha, what's your quick
Well, I'm just thinking about the Secretary of State spokesperson saying, you know, well, we're not going to basically publicly admonish Israel yet. Right? We're not going to cut off the weapons supply yet. We're watching what happens. We're watching whether or not enough aid flows into Gaza. The tone has shifted dramatically with the people who have been appointed. You see, Mike Huckabee will be the ambassador to Israel. This is a team that is very Israel strength focused. We know that Netanyahu and Trump have had at least 3 conversations. This tone has completely changed. My guess, you know, former President Trump loves to interact with people. He loves to talk to people. I think this meeting will be beefy in that response. But I don't think they're going to dig a lot into the future policy.
Well, and Bill made a good point. John, I'll come to you next. I mean, Trump isn't going to show his hand. However, he did a bit when he was running to the American people, to voters. And it may be part and parcel for the support that he got from the Jewish community. You cannot ignore the pickup of Jewish voters in this country, given all of the anti-Semitic behaviors, riots, protests, death threats, actual violence. I mean, it has been quite the last 6 months to a year. So it makes sense for him to make that public during the campaign, what he would do. He was going to reach out, talk with leaders before he became the president in January. Just your thoughts and reporting on that. I know you were in Israel not too long ago.
Yeah, and I think that the appointment of Mike Huckabee, or at least the nomination of Mike Huckabee to be the U.S. ambassador to Israel, is a brilliant move on the president's part. Huckabee, very dedicated to Israel. Israel loves Huckabee, and I think that will facilitate a very constructive dialogue between the United States and Israel. Don't forget, as you pointed out, the president vowed that he would end the Ukraine war before he took office. So we'll see what he does on that front. We'll see what his conversations with Vladimir Putin might lead to. This idea of maybe ending the war in the Middle East in a fairly short time period, I think is one that will go over well. A friend of mine lives in Beirut. She told me that all the women in Lebanon are crushing over the choice of Pete Hegseth for defense secretary. Pete, of course, is a very good-looking fella, and they like his military record, but they also think that he will be part of this idea of peace through strength. Let me come back also to the point that I was making earlier, that Harold also alluded to, about the effectiveness of a Trump second term. Don't forget, literally, from the moment he took office on January 20th, 2017, he was under siege. He was under siege from Democrats. He was under siege from the media. At every turn, the wolves were at the door. Over the past 4 years, and I never meant to say that he was not working, because he was working every day. He was just out of office. But over the last 4 years, he's really come to realize and identify where the traps are, where the pitfalls are in the presidency, and how to avoid them. And I think just by virtue of the cabinet picks that we have seen so far, Trump learned a lot from his first administration, and I think that he won't be as under siege as he would have been.
Well, we shall see. I mean, Judge Juan Merchan may have something to say about that. I mean, we thought we were going to get a decision this week in the case that has a sentencing date for November 26th. Now, that date moves off the calendar, and we're waiting for November 19th to see if that conviction will stay and there will be sentencing with that. I mean, we're still watching lawfare against this president-elect. It's an interesting spot to be in.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily.
So, like I said before, that case is not going anywhere. To back up to the first clip that we watched with Jack Smith. Jack Smith, you know, he thinks he's slick. You know, he's going to resign, you know, well before Trump gets inaugurated. He knew his goose was cooked. He knew he was done. The moment Trump got in office, he was going to fire him. But now he has to worry about litigation. Now he has to, well, not litigation, he has to worry about being investigated, because they've already told his office that they need to maintain all of their records. Because I would imagine that Trump's office is probably going to go through those records with a fine-tooth comb and make sure that he dotted his I's and crossed his T's. Because if he did anything that was not legal or was not in line with what he was supposed to be doing as a special counsel or whatever, he's done. It's a wrap for him. And to everybody on the left that's running around here trying to say, oh, well, you know, Trump shouldn't be going after his political opponents. It's a little late for that. It's a little late for that. You should have had that energy when they were going after him. You know, so turnabout is fair play. And politics is politics. And we know politics can be a very dirty game. You can't get mad when, you know, it's time for the dirt to get on you. You feel what I'm saying? Shout out to Daniel. Appreciate you. Shout out to R.E. Williams. He said, for the cook session. Shout out to Hannibal. Appreciate you. Shout out to Big Mike. He said, Matt Gaetz for Attorney General. Woo! Oh, you know what? I didn't even know he picked Matt Gaetz for Attorney General. Let's check that out. Let's check that out. I didn't even know that.
Trump appointment, and this is one. All right, we've got another Trump appointment, and this is one that is probably going to surprise a lot of people because he was not on any of the lists that were floating around out there. And there had been some discussion that President-elect Trump was having trouble making this final decision, or maybe this is the person he had in mind all along. But he has now nominated Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz as Attorney General.
Appreciate the membership. Do y'all realize? Do y'all realize what is taking place right now? Do y'all realize the ramifications of some of these picks? Do y'all realize this? Yo, Matt Gaetz is literally one of the congressmen that was going hard in the paint against the Biden administration. And a lot of their goofy policies. Y'all realize this, right? This is crazy. Trump is like literally forming a dream team. This is crazy. And I know y'all seen the new border czar. How many of y'all seen the new border czar? Press 1 if y'all seen the new border czar. Let me give you an example.
Hey, look, they gave me 5 minutes to say a few things, so if I offend anybody tonight, I don't give a shit. How many pounds of fentanyl did make in this country?
Damn near brings a tear to my eye, bro. It damn near brings a tear to my eye. He said, I only got a few minutes to say something, but, you know, if I offend anybody, I really don't give a shit. Like, bro. Oh, my God.
Hey, look, they gave me 5 minutes to say a few things, so if I offend anybody tonight, I don't give a shit. How many pounds of fentanyl didn't make in this country to kill Americans? How many known suspected terrorists didn't make it in the country? How many billions of dollars did the cartels make? President Trump is one badass president. He secured the border at a level we've never seen before. And I got a message to the millions of illegal aliens that have been released into the United States under this administration. Don't get too comfortable. We're going to need some help. Do I have any volunteers that want to come back and help run the biggest deportation operation in the history of this nation? In January of 25, the greatest president of my lifetime walking back in the White House. He tells me, we got, you know, I say 120 days. He says, no, you got 60 to lock the border down. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what I told the president. He comes back, I come back, we fix this shit. Hey, look, they gave me 5 minutes to say a few things, so if
We're finally getting some men back in the White House. Some masculinity back in the White House. None of that soft talk, none of the mincing words. Nah, we gonna get this shit done. Bro. That's the fuck I'm talking about.
Of the United States. He just wrote this on Truth Social. Quote, Matt is a deeply gifted and tenacious attorney, trained at William & Mary College of Law, distinguished himself in Congress through his focus on achieving desperately needed reform at the Department of Justice. Few issues in America are more important than ending the partisan weaponization of our justice system. Matt will end weaponized government, protect our borders, dismantle criminal organizations, and restore Americans' badly shattered faith and confidence in the Justice Department. So we're going to get some folks on the phone to get reaction to this. Fortunately, we still have Steve Hilton with us. Steve, you know, we have been all kind of looking at different people that we had heard were in the mix for this position. And no doubt this is a surprise to a number of them who thought they were in the running. Your thoughts?
Well, the first reaction was, wow, President-elect Trump is really going for it. I mean, this is a very, very strong appointment. And exactly as he said in his statement, all those things he said about Matt are absolutely true. I'd like to add something that our audience may not know about Matt Gaetz, because, of course, he's so familiar as a firebrand. I think it was his book even called Firebrand. I think he called himself that. And a bomb thrower politically. But actually, he's very, very smart on policy. I got to know that when I'd have him as a guest on my show over the years. I remember the very first time he came on my show, and we had him on for a particular topic, and during the break, I asked him about the next thing that we were going to discuss. It was a completely unrelated topic. And he immediately came out with some incredibly smart, policy-based observations that were so impressive. And I said, great, join for that discussion as well. And I've stayed in touch with him over the years. He's very smart. He knows policy. He's a serious guy. He doesn't always necessarily show that because he goes for the jugular politically. But it's wrong to dismiss him as just a political firebrand. He's much, much more than that. There's a depth to him that doesn't always come across.
You know, I think that what can be said about a lot of these picks, Steve, is that they will definitely cause all of the people, whether it's at the Pentagon or the Department of Justice, they are sitting up straight in their chairs right now wondering what this is going to be like. I'm just picturing Matt Gaetz, if he is confirmed, walking into the Department of Justice for those big get-togethers that they have with new leadership and what the reaction is going to be. And I'm guessing that you will probably have some people who say, I'm not necessarily going to stick around for that chapter.
Yes, and he would probably
Bye.
say good. But exactly as we were discussing earlier, this is what the country voted for. It was a clear victory, a decisive victory, and this is what Donald Trump was saying all the time in all the rallies. He was specifically in this particular area where Matt Gaetz will now play a leading role about the weaponization of the justice system. And again, let's go back to the point. The insiders and the establishment will say, this is how could you do this? This is completely appalling. Well, how well have they been doing running things? It's been a complete disaster. Merrick Garland's been a disaster as Attorney General. Yes, he's very...
Bye, Merrick. Bye, Merrick Garland. You're done, son.
Qualified. He's a kind of establishment guy, was previously nominated as a Supreme Court justice, etc., etc. But on his watch, the confidence of the public in
Merrick Garland is an idiot.
Our justice system has completely collapsed. And so even on the base level, you could say, well, how much worse could it be? But I think it's going to be much better than that, because the phrase you used earlier, I think, is such an important one. It's a brilliant phrase that captures the energy here. A reform jolt. That is what's needed. That's what is needed right across the government, a real shake-up. And you're only going to get that from people who are incredibly clear in what they think and will lead in a very clear direction. Some may not like it, but it's what people voted for last week.
Yeah, and I think Mary Catherine Ham just brought up the exit poll, our Fox News voter analysis, significant upheaval. People who said they wanted significant upheaval in the way that the government is run. I think people are so sick and tired of, watching how much it costs, how many of their tax dollars are spent, and not seeing huge results for that in terms of a stronger country, a country that's more efficient, where, our intelligence is the absolute best, our justice system is the absolute best. So very interesting. Like I said, there's gonna be a lot of people who are not too happy today who thought that they were in the running for this spot, but that's life. That's the way it goes. And this is his pick. So we'll see how it goes moving forward. Steve, thank you very much, Steve Hilton, for joining me again.
Hey, Sean.
Ooh-wee. It's about to be some angry people running around here. Because a lot of these guys he's picking, These are no nonsense type of people. They upset about Rubio too. They upset about Rubio too. They upset about Marco Rubio too as Secretary of State. So yeah, you got bruh. What did they pick Tulsi for? I know she's going to be part of his administration, but Director of National Intelligence. That's a good pick. That's a good pick. That's a good pick. Yeah, they about... You know the left is losing their mind right now. You know the left is losing their shit right now. And by the way, Jack Smith, you... Yo, you got some problems on your hands now, bruh. You got some problems on your hands now, homeboy. I can't wait. Look, you know what? I think it's pretty safe to say that the street conservative is back. Because I'm going to get immense amounts of pleasure covering all of the things this administration is going to do. I'm going to get so much pleasure out of covering every single aspect of every single decision, every single policy that they're going to implement. Like, real talk. It's going to be fire. It's going to be fire. How many of you press a 1 in the chat room if you're happy for the return of the street conservative? Hit a 1 in the chat room. Shout out to my man Famous Davis. He said black love is definitely over with. I saw Papoose in Brooklyn a week ago, and he looks like he is never trying love ever again. 2028, you'll get either Vance or Vivek, maybe even both. Click clack. Shout out to Christopher. Appreciate you. Yeah, so it's pretty safe to say that you guys will be getting the street conservative. You'll definitely be getting that back. So, definitely be on the lookout for that. Shout out to everybody that came through and supported the show. I definitely appreciate you guys. Shout out to Joe and Carnell for being sponsors of the show. Make sure you go check out my book, available on Amazon. All you have to do is type The Angryman Standard in the search bar and it will come up. It's available in paperback and hardcover. And if you want to check out the merchandise, all you have to do is go over to shopBinoNation.com. Again, that is shopBinoNation.com. But to everybody in here, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Shout out to everybody. Thank you to everybody that hit the like button, everybody that supported, all of that good stuff. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Deuces.
Spartans! What is your profession?